Oh, I guess you shared the announcement on what's the name of your page? Your show?
Cosmic Gateway.
Yeah, I don't know why I can't remember anything. Well, I do. Cosmic Gateway, you have over 10,000 followers because it said, Cosmic Gateway shared your
Oh,
post. They have over
yeah.
10,000 followers. That's great.
Mm,
That's great. You do a
yeah.
great job. You do a great job with that. I really like your.
Oh, thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've had it 2017 Cosmic Gateway kind of was birth, and then for years it kind of increased, and then it just like plateaued as it does.
Mm.
As you would know,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook just kind of shuts things
Oh
down.
yeah, 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 yeah. You mean you get that foot comes down on you. It's funny though. They
Hmm.
push it down, then it just goes like this, and then it goes like that. But I haven't noticed those fluctuations as much in the last, I'd say probably year, probably the last 8 to 12 months. I do notice it a little bit because I'll see like the membership in the Soldier group will flatline like
Hmm.
for no reason for like 2 straight months, and then all of a sudden,
Hmm.
boom, it'll go.
Hmm. Hmm. I watched my Instagram basically not move for 2 years during 2000, 2020, 2021. It,
Right.
it didn't move. It would go up and then it would come back down. It would go up and come back down. And I thought, oh, they're unfollowing. They're like actually taking people off. And one of my followers contacted me. She goes, "I woke up this morning and I'm no longer following you on Instagram." I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
hmm, yeah,
Yeah, I think
but
2020 and 2021 that was the COVID run, right?
mm, mm,
And I think that there was a lot of interference, obviously,
mm,
and you see it being kind of unraveled now. With uh, you know what Twitter has done, what PayPal tried to do a couple of
yeah,
days ago. Like you can see where it's not being hidden anymore. So this is like part of the stuff that Franco would talk about. Things being revealed, literally being revealed, and yeah, it's just deep. And I wanted to tell you too, for some reason in the last 10 shows, and maybe even something I wrote, I was referring to that show that you came on when you came out about your story.
mm,
And man, I got to tell you, there was a couple of moments I know on a couple of shows and comments and people, and just like when we did the show, women saying, "Hey, this happened to me." I saw one comment. The woman said they came in and asked me, and I said no. But I tell that story. I tell that story because that was the way you explained it. I don't know. It just brought it home for me because when the mantis came in and said, "Hey, we know you're going through a lot. Um, we got your back," and you're like, "What about my emotional well-being?" And I'm like, "Boom." So I find myself now in these crazy energies, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on like what you're going through and whatever that is. How are
mm,
you adjusting the way you navigate things? Um, but I find it's all in the emotions
mm,
that there's a certain level of awareness that might be within grasp that if I can take my emotions, no matter what they are, it could be pure happiness, it could be pure longing, it could be anger, it could whatever it is, and somehow alchemize that into this new earth grid with a
mm.
conscious intention, with pure love, like aligning free will with universal will. And that's why that story's stuck with me. And now it's come into play. So where are you at? Because you look like you're doing great. Everyone else I see is falling apart.
I'm doing great as of like 2 days ago, honestly, Todd.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it back in July. A lot of stuff was going on, and I know about um, your little holiday.
My holiday. We're playing with animation over here. We try to do some things constructively, spiritual messaging through, or whatever, just through another medium. But that story will be one of the first ones we do. Because we'll have it
Well,
like where, the character's going down the road handcuffed and foot cuffed, and one of his aspects pops in, or Franco popped in. Like really, what goes on, like in our lives, like even telling your story that you told last year when you came out with it, which we're really
Well, the
grateful
funny
for.
thing was that around the time that you went through your holiday, I had someone who is very close to me, went through almost identical scenario, and I was like on the receiving end of watching someone else close to me go through that. And so when I listened to the talk that you did sharing, I was just like, no way! Like it was almost like
Yeah, and you're on the what'd you say? The kind of the observing side or the experiencing it from the other side. You're the same birthday as Morgan, and she was doing the same thing.
yeah.
You know.
And I was just like, this is crazy. And so I was actually driving, watching, well, I wasn't, no, shouldn't do that. I was listening and driving the story. And I just happened to stop at the lights and I looked up and the number plate in front of me was Yod, YOD, which in astrology means the finger of God.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, there's something really big happening,
Yeah.
through these experiences. And so it was shortly after that, around the end of August, I think it was for me, Anubis came. And I've never had Anubis come to me before.
he, we, he's my he's my side he's my side ride for sure. Keep going.
And I was just falling asleep and I could see him sort of coming in and I was like, whoa, like what's happening? And basically he said to me, you're about to go through a death and rebirth. I'm like, oh, again, woohoo. And you have to let go of everything you've ever known.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, okay. And his presence stayed with me for about a week. And it was really trippy because every time I'd forget about it, I almost felt like his head was overshadowing mine. And he was doing all these kind of weird movements. And sure enough, after that, a lot of things sort of unraveled and exploded. And I just kind of sank into that very hermit mode. And I've been in that space for a couple of months, to be
So
honest.
that happened end of August. So September till now, you've been
Yeah.
yeah, man. I don't get this. It's just beyond coincidence, right? I mean, it's almost like the 5D got shot out of a cannon. So the most extreme crazy things happen, but the higher reality or the say the one timeline or whatever that is that we've been following came in like in a huge way. But because of the extremity of the, let's say, the linear or how that looks or whatever, you've got the whole echoes of that. Like, we might call them lower vibrations. I don't think that's fair. That's just the human condition experience, right? Like, holy shit, my kids were worried about me. Morgan was, it was a lot on people, just like with you and your friend. But there was a higher thing coming in. And it's like that's been blasting us for the last few weeks. Because, I mean, the gnarliest of the gnarliest. I mean, I'm fresh. I'm raw. Last night, what you probably went through, up through whatever. You said it's been like 2 days since you've been kind of clear, because you look clear.
Yeah. 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 And you know that time's coming, but while you're going through it, it feels like this never ending sort of density to move through. And I don't know about you, but I get very shut off from my intuition's there in the background, but it's not like high definition
Right.
like it normally would be, with the exception of when I'm working with someone else. So it's magic how it can get switched on if I have to work, but other than that, it's just this drip feeding. But I think it was about 2 or 3 nights ago. I wrote about this because I thought, I wonder if other people are going through it in dream, because dream space has been so intense. Like I've had 5 hours sleep because I needed a rest from what was going on. And I was watching this planet kind of not explode, but die. And I was sort of hovering out in space watching this planet, and all I heard was, "It is done. You don't need to carry this anymore." And then there was this release in my field. And I just, it's funny because one of my dogs is incredibly in tune and is very sensitive to me. So um, she will come in if I'm in deep dream space and try and wake me up or pull me out of it if it's detrimental to me, or if she senses something's going on. But I just laid there and I just observed it, and I woke up and I thought, what was that about? Like, I could interpret that in so many different ways. And I think I'm still picking it apart, to be honest. Oh, it was 10:10. It was the morning of 10:10
All right.
when
So
that
that
happened.
was 3 days ago. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like this period was like 10, 10, 10, 10, 11, and 12. And I was talking to my daughter last night, and we were talking about something that happened back in the day, like when I was homeless or whatever, during that period when getting them back. And we were talking about an incident, and it happened on that weekend, the weekend of the 10, 11, 12. And I said, oh my God, that was, whatever it was, 6 years ago to the day we're talking about this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating when you look back. So I've been looking back a lot in this period because when I went through this whole death rebirth process, I got very loud message that the only thing that you need to do at the moment is to finish a book. Now, that's been in progress for 7 years.
It's like the Soulogy Network. It's been in progress for like going on 5. We're getting close.
And so I have, and I've chipped away at it. There have been nights where the stream of consciousness will come in, the energy will come in. So I'll sit up all night and keep writing. Um, and I feel like I finished it yesterday.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
10,
yeah.
12. 10, 12.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's 10, 12 here, and like even like talking to Morgan and the way things happen chronologically, it's hard to get a feel, but it feels like Southern Hemisphere for some reason goes first. It's like, right? Like you said 2 days ago, I hope my 2 days comes tomorrow. um, did
It
you,
will.
when you were in the hermit mode for a few weeks, I can totally relate. I took 6 days off. I never did that
Mm,
before.
yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
that
that.
that was a real eye opener. But and it certainly didn't complete the mission. I'll tell you that. But did you go? Did you? I mean, like, and again, it's so weird because you're expanding at the same time. It's happening at the same time. Literally getting shredded to pieces. Like the gnarliest things. That having to go into spaces that don't even exist on this earth, obviously.
Mhm.
But at some human level, having to go to these spaces to confront, to be, to do all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. Just to, I don't know. Did you experience anything like that where you just went like to the raw end of your emotions and it was just like a multi, kind of like mind fuck thing?
Yeah.
Soul revival. I think it's a 5D soul revival. uh, yeah,
It's been a theme, yeah. I definitely dipped in some very low places that I haven't experienced that
yeah,
level of low in a very long time.
yeah,
Um, just a lot of despair and grief and like reflection too of like the loss on this journey, like the physical loss, the friends, the
yeah,
connections, you know, I know you understand. I know many people watching understand, that
yeah,
letting go of,
yeah,
and I don't think it never gets any easier, but you kind of have different tools to navigate or understand it. But I think when you're in that disconnected place, you still got to go through the emotional processing of it all.
yeah,
And it felt like an emptying out.
yeah. And see, there with the emotions again. See, we keep coming back to the emotions. And like, what's more embodying the human than to align with your emotion? This is unique to us. This to me is the raw material that we have that no one else has. So that's all the new code. So it's the grit, it's the grind. It's like, how do you figure this out as a human being? Like, we just had this sister on a while ago, and she said, everything's left, my higher self's left. How many times have we heard people say that? And you're just there and you're human, right? So somehow or another, I think that these emotions, going back to what you said to the mantis, somehow or another, so this is something they didn't account for, because they don't know it, because you'd have to be boots on the ground to know it. So this is the, like the prize in the Cracker Jacks. We pull it out. Oh, you mean all along the magic is rooted in our emotions, which have run havoc on us. So can we pick these apart, or are they going to continue to pick us apart? How do we channel it?
Yeah. Well, I always have felt for a long time that the emotion is the code or the key in which we manifest from. It is like, people talk about, the law of attraction and manifesting and things like that, and visualize. But if you're not feeling into the depth of that, then there's no creational energy. And I think that's our unique code as human beings, is that we have that magic ingredient that we're able to.
Yeah, like when you were writing your book through the 6 week or whatever, several weeks, where you went into isolation as a result of whatever the hell August was and how it ended. I feel like we got spit out. Just, boom. Could you feel your emotions? Were you transferring your emotion or whatever, alchemizing or whatever while you were writing?
I felt like I relived the entire journey again, but from a more detached place. So there were pockets of emotion that came up, but it felt like an alchemical completion of the process for me, to be not so in it as it has been for so long. And I realized I needed to get to that more objective place to be able to write it, because in the past when I'd been writing it, it'd been coming from more polarized, emotional, and less objective. And to be honest, Todd, like, rereading what I had written previously and rehashing the story almost feels like I'm reading someone else's life.
Wow, that's deep. Like the higher self embodied reading, like the avatar. That's pretty cool. But like that thing with the emotion thing. Like, we had this show when I got back on this thing Sunday, or whatever that was, like 4 days ago. We had one show on Sunday, and it was God, where's she from? Australia, I think. I'm not sure. Laura Mitchell. And I'd seen her on YouTube a lot, and I didn't know who she was, so we connected. Come on, and she was an accomplished jazz singer for 20 years, really, really talented. And I don't know if I got this totally right, but kind of chronologically I do. She has a wake up, or her wake up expands or something. She just turns away from that. Won't make music for money. Get some ukuleles. Her higher self says, don't tune them. Just pick them up and start playing. So she played a little piece on the show, and it was just amazing. But anyway, one of the things she said was, because she was talking about how she would watch Ty and I when we do our thing, and just saying, hey, she would always make comments and stuff like, keep going, Todd, or whatever. But what she was saying was that it's not how great your voice is. She said, in essence, it's, are you feeling it? Are you capturing the emotions? Are you really present? And that's when I just went, yeah, let me keep doing this. You know what I mean? Because she was right. Here's an accomplished jazz musician who's been in the studios, you know, the whole thing, who's playing out of tune ukuleles and making them work in a beautiful way. That's what she's doing. That's what she's doing. So, you know, that's kind of like the old and the new to me. And it's the same thing you're talking about with how you felt about the relationship between alchemy and emotion.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because music has always been something in the background for me. It's never something I've explored, but it's always something that I've had a desire to want to get involved in some capacity. And over the years, I've been given little insights or downloads or connections to point me in that direction, which I haven't really taken that opportunity up. And when I say that, I don't know what that looks like for me, but I have all the information around creating like a whole new genre of music that is at a different frequency.
Right, right, right.
And I think that came in around 2015. Actually, it's a funny story. I'll share it with you. I was living on my own at the time, and I had this single white glove appear in my house. And I thought, oh, that's strange.
You always have the cool shit happen to you. So you find this white glove.
Yeah, just one white glove. And I thought, oh, that's really strange. So I actually picked it up and I threw it outside. And I just maybe assumed that my dog had found it and brought it inside. I didn't think too much of it. But I was like, oh, that, you know, maybe look up the symbology of single white glove, and couldn't find anything, couldn't make sense of anything. I come home 2 nights later, I think it was, and I pull my doona back to get into bed, and here is the glove placed underneath my doona
Oh, God.
on my pillow. And I went, yeah, I don't think that was my dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, I picked it up and I put it outside. And then 2 days later, I found it in another place in my house that my dog couldn't have possibly put it there. And I was talking to someone on the phone, and I was like, I just can't put this piece together. Like, single white glove, and I don't understand. Like, what's the meaning behind all this? And my friend said, Alisha, single white glove? Like, come on. Are you really not paying attention? And before he said anything, I looked up and I just had this vision of Michael Jackson standing in front of me.
Wow.
And I went, oh.
Wow.
And I've had a couple of like connections with him over the years, and like he sort of shows me how music can change and evolve as we move through the shift. Sometimes he'll come into dream space, and it's just one of those experiences that I what I was told at that time was that there would be people that will come together to create a whole new genre of music.
Yeah.
There was nothing to do, but that it would be something that I would be involved in at a later time. And
that resonates. Yeah. That resonates. I was told the same thing in 2014, 2015. That one of the things I would be involved in would be a new genre. And so, like, I started doing stuff, and I just call it soul speaking. I don't think that's the genre. After sitting down with musicians and understanding what you received, which is, hey, if we're all going to be remixes of Jesus and Buddha and Magdalene and Kuan Yin, and and everything gets remixed, and like Michael Jackson's essence is telling you, it's going to go somewhere, even that's never been before, right? That the same thing would happen or you notice the same thing happening when you're just spontaneously playing freestyle with these different people, because the instruments themselves are doing things spontaneously. It's all intuitive, and you know what I mean. It's pretty cool. It's like everybody's a genius. Everybody's a master. And maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know, but it's interesting that you heard the same thing I did.
Often, like, it hasn't happened in a long time, but often he'll pop in and I'll be listening to music, like mainstream music on the radio, and he'll pop in and say, change this word, change that word, change this. And like, he'll be prompting me around tweaking what already exists to make it into a different frequency. And I was like, oh, that's clever. That's so clever.
Man, you're full of surprises. I mean, this is high level stuff. I mean, because look, just like with your story, when you told your story, and all those women were like, yeah, me too. You know, this is the real me too. No disrespect to the other one, but yeah, this is because like I said, you know, other people, I guarantee you're going to step up and talk about it. Maybe it's not Michael Jackson. It might have been Prince. It might have been somebody else. You know, where they pop in. I've reached out to artists to like collaborate, and I've had a couple instances where, you know, they've popped in, but this is the common thing. Is what I'm getting at. This is the reality. This is what we can have. It's pretty cool.
And do you know what's exciting, Todd? I've been watching the astrology. Something sparked my attention, and I was like, I need to understand this. So on the 22nd of this month, so 22/10/22, the Venus star goes into Libra, which is like a 100-year transit, from what I gather. I'm no astrologer, but and it marks a time of artistic and musical renaissance, because the last time it occurred was the time of Mozart. And so we're moving into that in just under a few weeks. And I think
good.
I think the push to get my book done was because I want to start a new chapter in a creative mode. And still, I don't have much. I mean, I have bits and pieces, but it hasn't come into high definition yet.
So what's now, is this your second book or your first book? Or your third
No,
book?
it'll be my first one, but I'm already started the second one.
Right.
So, yeah.
So is it your story?
Yeah.
Wow. You talk about
So,
do you talk about everything? Wow.
yeah. Yeah. I had to be in a place where I was ready to say it completely uncensored.
That's going to be powerful. If any of y'all haven't seen the show we did last year, and I believe it was in October, maybe, if you just queried Alisha Brache on YouTube or on my page, SoulSpeaks 5D, there's a few of them, but I think it was toward the end of last year. But if you've got that information in the book, not to mention the Michael Jackson visitations.
I haven't put that part in. I'll have to
You
go
got to
back
go
to
back
it.
and put that. You have to, because that's the whole thing. It's the weirdness. It's the fantasy, the fairy tale part that we never talk about. And we're told that is fairy tale and fantasy, and you need to be a psych ward. This is, I really believe, this is how we this is how we build or expand the collective, whatever you want to call it, frequency band or whatever you want to call it. Is because people, like I'm saying more and more every day, they comment, they message, and they email, and they say, this is a lifeline, or they'll say, whatever you save me, or I don't know what I'd do without you, because it's not me. It's they say it, the guests, these guests telling stories that I can relate to, and I thought I was the only one. I was told I was crazy. So this is actually the whole flip of the paradox that's going to be so cool.
Mm-hmm. And you're such a front runner in that, because I know, and I can honestly say when I'm going through periods where I feel, I even go through that, and I feel like, whoa, did I just make all this up? Am I just
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah. Like last night, I'll tell you that right now. I'm thinking, well, am I in hell or what? You know? Then my first guest this morning, she's talking about going to hell, and I'm like, shit.
Mm.
Is it all the same thing? you know? But well, I think that
Um,
like you're,
Watching you
yeah,
helps so much, even for me. Like, I'll just have your voice running in the background,
yeah.
and it just makes me feel comfort. And so,
Mm,
thank you, Todd, for all
mm.
the amazing work that you do.
Man, there's so much coming in. There's so much coming in right now. Like what happened last night, the thing with the lady with the going to hell. Now, what you're saying right now is triggering a bunch of memories from last night, things I was taken through, in relation to what you're talking about, which is a straight up truth. Because look, what you're talking about is resonance. What you want to call it, heart resonance, vocal, tonal resonance, all of the above. And I was in this place last night, and this is a straight up truth. I released things so personal that I don't wish to discuss them. But at one point, this whole thing came into my field, and like you would say, like Todd's evolution as doing this, and how the tone and everything had changed, and the
Mm,
influence, obviously, an external influence in Morgan in pointing things out, right? Almost like having a physical guide in terms of that. But that's where it all went to. I was
mm,
following, like feeling, and then I was hearing this other thing, and it all made sense. So I think that's just reflective of what's happening with all of us. That's why we remix everything. I mean, if Michael Jackson's coming in and giving you code, you'll be sitting next to somebody in a room playing instruments and whatever studio, and the same thing will be happening.
mm. I think it's very possible, and I have been shown that we can bring in code in through the throat that can attune our voice, even if we. But it's about the frequency that is the output that comes through us. So it's really just about being a pure vessel
Yeah,
and
yeah,
channel.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I had a wild dream space just before COVID hit, where I was in Sedona and I was with a group of people. And I've never been to Sedona. It's definitely
Jesus,
on my list.
this is I'm in Sedona, right? I'm in Sedona
I
till the.
didn't actually know. I saw it on your tongue. I was like,
Oh
ah.
yeah, I'm here till the end of the year, whatever that means.
And and there was like multiple things happening in dream space where I was uh, in like a restaurant with a big group of people, and I was kind of running a workshop, or I was sort of doing some things, and then I was sort of observing someone in a music studio creating music. And then at the end of that, this guy came up to me and handed me a set of keys, and he said to me, um, Janet wants you to take care of her house and home for the next 2 weeks, and here's the keys. And when I say Janet, I'm referring to Janet Jackson, because she often appears in dream space. I'm still piecing all that together, what that
That's
really
cool.
means.
That's cool.
And it wasn't until earlier this year that I got invited to a friend's studio where he's working on some music. And it's been this year that I've had a lot of musicians come into my reality, like a lot. And they had that similar download. And the dream came back to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, like that was, it just reminded me of that dream. And I spoke to a friend of mine, and I was explaining to him about the dream. And he said, um, would you recognize the face of that person if you saw him again, the guy that handed you the keys? And I said, oh yeah, like my dream recall is pretty. um, and so he sent me a picture, and he said, was it this guy? And I was like, how do you know that? Like, what is going on here? And he said, oh, that's a friend of mine that I've been friends with for like 20 years or more. And he's good friends with the Jackson family. I was like, this is just.
You see what I'm talking about? It's crazy. It's crazy.
So I mean, I know there's stuff happening in the background. I would just like to have a greater understanding of what it looks like, but I guess, I mean,
Yeah, but I think that's what it is. See, I learned so much energetically when I came here in July, and the first day I got here, they pulled me in the studio. I'd never done this before, but it was like, everything aligns, and it's like the perfect storm, and your soul's going, you're fucking doing this, and I'm like, holy shit, but it's because you don't know. See, like the very first song we did was like an old poem that I wrote, and if you listen to it, it's all presence. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the whole thing. But there was nothing planned. It was just like somebody put a beat on, and then we just went for it. It was like we rehearsed it, but we didn't. And I think that's the part that we make up. That's the new code, and that's what Michael Jackson's talking about. Taking and you're just changing the frequency. This is what DJs do. When they take old records and then they play electronics off of the beat, and just do different things with it. It's fascinating. It's a great physical representation of the energetic field and the power of creation.
what happens when you're in the studio to your energy and your body?
It's crazy. It's crazy. That first time, and I think that there was two that I did. Like when I opened it, I said, "I've always wanted to try this." I said on camera, "I always want to try this. I don't know how I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just do the best I can." And then somewhere in the middle, I had written this one about Franco, and I was feeling like Franco and Morgan at the time, and I said it, and again, it was all like we rehearsed it. They were even laughing at each other. I assume in the background. But how did it make you feel? Everything from absolute total fright to where you're verbalizing, listening to the music, somehow or another innately aligning with it, but at the same time your humans going, ah. It's like looking in the mirror and you see everything, all your imperfections that nobody else sees, right? From that all the way to the end, at some point, I think when I did that second one, and I said to him, "Man, this is like." It was like a sexual thing. It was a sacred sexual kind of like, it goes out and comes right back in thing. And I was feeling it, and I made a joke about it. So, and I would say everything in between: embarrassment, self-consciousness. But to me, what happened, what I gained from it, and it wasn't just as a potential artist or whatever, it was more of a way of life, was when I sat down and did it, it was kind of like, well, it's all or nothing. So if I'm going to fuck this up, I'm going to go out. and I can't really explain it. It was like going through and just kind of not being aware really of anything beyond what you were in the present state of, this music and your voice to align with it. Yeah, but it's a powerful thing. Like what you said about music, not really digging into music, and now you're getting that vibe. I think this is another sign of the times.
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many great artists that I'm connected to, that I know, that I've heard about, that are just creating magic right now.
Yeah.
Even some clients of mine, and just like, playing around with this combination of frequency and sound, and like the stuff that you write's incredible. It's incredible. And tone and light language, and like mixing all that up. I mean, there's so much potential there. So much potential. I mean, I'm contemplating, I don't know if I will do it yet, the logistics. I certainly have the resources.
You can do it now. You want to do it now?
Oh, no.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm contemplating recording my book as an audio book with frequency sounds behind it.
Well, you know what? And I'm not just saying this, but if you are going to do something like that, you need to talk to Ty. Because that's his thing. See, one thing I learned about coming over here, and I'm the same. I didn't really, always say I'm not a good light worker. Well, with the gongs and the music, because he's actually like a flute. He plays the flute, the guitar, the bass, the sax, and keyboard. So he has this whole thing set up. And what he actually does like little concerts for people. So you come in and do a session with him, and you create the music together based on the colors and and it's just all. So what I learned, not just from him but from some other people, they're actually reconnecting, like my friend Laura Mitchell, reconnecting with what they know and their skills and abilities into like a 5D or an expanded frequency where sound healing is really a better term, and it's profound. It's just a profound thing. But yeah, he does stuff like that, and like he just sent me like 48 of them. I got like all kinds of different ones, and it's amazing because you can have like nature to like maybe a cello or and you just all these different frequencies. I'm a big believer. The more frequencies you can add, the more potential in that vibration. Of course, obviously, the more resonant the frequencies are as a sound itself, as a wall of sound, obviously, the more powerful it is.
Were you musically inclined as a child? Like, did you play instruments or
No. No, I mean, when I was in choir, I was in choir. I got in choir in 8th grade because it was an easy A. And so I took it in 9th grade, and then me and two of my friends got kicked out like in the first 2 weeks, and they didn't have anywhere for us to go. So they got the assistant choir director, who was like 22 years old, to teach us how to play guitar. So I learned how to play guitar. I learned a few songs, and then I picked the guitar back up later, right before pre-wake up, like in the dark night, in the dark night of the soul. And how many great things have been written and done from the dark night of the soul, right? And then, and just coming, I played with a little bit when I got the download about a new genre. I made like 100 of those things. But coming over here, it's a totally different experience because I guess it parallels, or it's another physical manifestation or proof, you know what I mean, of what's happening. And it happens in the moment too. It happens in the moment. That's where the power of it is. Morgan used to say that the internet is the highest physical representation of the ethers. That's a pretty good explanation. I would say what I'm seeing with the music is a very high, or maybe the highest physical representation of the ethers in the present moment that can be obtained at any time by any one or two or more gather, which is even more powerful. It's a trippy thing we signed up to do here.
I think there's exciting times ahead of us in this sort of creational rebuilding, and I can't help to watch the trends occasionally, and with all these artists that have been sort of at the forefront over the last decade or half a decade, a lot of them cancelling or becoming ill, or and I'm wondering if that is that change of this era. Obviously I don't wish anyone ill or bad health, but you just kind of watching that trend and like the decline of certain artists and then the rise of others to create new space for that.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, people talk about the financial system or the governments and religion. They're going to be deconstructed or reconstructed, whatever. Well, it's all the same energy. If you're an artist, and you're tied into the dualistic paradigm, that's going to crumble, and your physical body might even crumble with it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think there's something really important. Like, again, going back to Laura Mitchell on Sunday, she was saying, I will not create anything for money. My art is, like the way she explained it was like, it's a sharing, which is what I was getting last night about, I was getting this visit from Father God. And he was talking about living is dying and dying is living. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he started talking about sharing. So, when you give, you think of the word give, giving up, right? So you're giving something up. You're giving your power away. But when you share, you're almost like blind faith, trusting to the nth degree, but you never know, kind of thing. You're not giving, you're sharing, and it comes back to you immediately. So you're dying and basically, birthing, dying, living, dying, same time. But I forgot what we got on that. I'm a mess. I'll tell you right now, I'm a total mess. I am. I agree with what you're saying about I'm really excited about what's coming, but man, I feel like I have just been turned inside out again. So I guess I'm 2 days behind Australia.
It's coming, Todd. I mean,
Yeah.
what's been the biggest thing for you in that space
What space?
that you're currently moving through? I want to know everything.
No, let me say, I can't even explain it. I would say, you let go until you can let go no more. And you expand as a result of it, and everything around you expands with it. But this last few weeks has been like, I feel like I'm there's a big bowl of spaghetti, like a big giant bowl of spaghetti, and I'm a little bitty, figurine of Todd, and I'm thrown into the spaghetti, and it's got oil all over it, and it's just like, so there's all these streams, they're like in a spaghetti bowl, just being scrambled, and at some weird level, you're getting like, oh, there's one, there's another one, and it's. But I think from a human perspective, without getting too specific, having to find higher levels of expansion requires, feeling. What's the word? Feeling the loss. Feeling that to feel that it's not. I don't know how to explain it. It's just been gut wrenching, but expanding. And all the time I know the love's expanding for myself and for those closest to me, and it's just weird though, the way the information's coming in. You could have 7 different people come into your field in a day, and all 7 of them are delivering the same message, but none of the 7 situations look like anything that another one of them do. It's weird. I mean, I can't explain it. You're probably asking the wrong person.
Is it like, I often see that if, as a collective, we're moving through a space that's trying to alchemize a certain emotional frequency or circumstance, then we all go through our own simulation, for lack of a better word, that creates a scenario where we're embodying or filtering through or somehow transforming that energy.
Yeah, well, yeah. And what does that feel like? It feels like, I don't know, up today, and this is like the best intel's the day, right? So this last couple of days, for me, it's been understanding that compassion, what compassion is no judgment, period. Nothing else has to be said, right? That's like total presence, total godliness, whatever. But the second part of that is start with myself, because the self-judgment, the victim consciousness is taking a fucking beating right now. We may not go through these long periods, but there's enough of us going through the same thing at the same time. it's not something we did. It's not. It's just the thing, right? And so for me, like when I get off with you today, first of all, because I don't know what the hell happened last night, so many things occurred. I purged like crazy. I felt like I was going to die, and I have to go lay with that. But the other thing I'm going to lay with is being sensitive to my self-judgment. Because if I can actually have compassion for myself to the nth degree, then I know that's what I will see in others, right? Right? So I look forward. Somebody said on the show a couple days ago, compassion is the 5D, is the fifth dimension. It's just compassion. So there you have no judgment, no forgiveness, no, all the stuff that would be tied to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm gonna get sick right now. I'm saying all this stuff and my solar starts rumbling. It's like, it's a lot of that.
Is that been a big part of the physical purging too? Is the stomach and the heart?
Um, God, I don't know how to explain my purging. A lot of it's in dream state, but like last night was not. Last night I didn't throw up, but I had my head over the toilet a few times. And I laid on the floor and sweated and then I got chilled and then sweated. I mean, it makes me want to cry. It was both just sacred and and just like, get me the fuck out of here. What the hell's? And then you would see this message or whatever, or understanding or code of the highest, and I'd be like, so it was crazy, It was just like, felt like a wind-up doll. Just, they want, the ones we had when I was a kid anyway. The girls would have, and they wind them up real tight, and the tighter you wind them, the faster they. It's just like. And I think to laugh about it really helps me, but I wasn't able to laugh much in the last up until like maybe today. Yes,
Yeah.
Do you really, when you're going through this stuff, do you really go like, oh, I know this is going to be okay? I don't even have that thought. I hear people say that, I'm like, I can't even. It doesn't even come into my mind. I'm just like trying to like survive the moment.
It varies. Like sometimes, like I'll tune in to where my energy's at, and if it looks quite grayscale, I know that I'm releasing or I'm not really present, and that's something that I've worked with a lot. Is when I'm deep in that hush density, I know that my higher self's MIA.
It's like those memes where the angels are like going, oh shit. Like my angel's looking down. Oh, see, but that's the part that used to make me angry way back. And I would have these come to Jesus meetings, and something would always happen. And that's when I first started noticing when I get emotional, even if I'm fired up, things happen. But I knew that that's not like the balanced way, right? So, but what it is when they're MIA, right? So I take that as an asset, and I've had a lot of these in the last 2 weeks where I've gone and said, we need to have a talk. Like, I need to know, you need to understand something. We're boots on the ground. And I always speak in terms of we with them, with the you, me, we, and it. And I tell them, man, the emotional well-being thing, we get it now. We're on it. We're going to give you a gift. But I will, and I even to Father God, even to Mother Universe, Mother Goddess, I say, I know I am your equal. We are one and the same. And the reason I feel like I'm able to do that is because of what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, we're the boots on the ground, and without getting cocky about it, and there's no reason to, and you're going to get your butt whooped if you do. I own that now. I feel the human I feel the human as much as I feel the soul, and I'm not going to shy away from anybody. So this ain't easy, man. And the whole paradox is the Francos and the such and suches that you talk to over the years, they tell you this is the Dolores Cannon. This is the toughest school there is in the universe. And then by the same token, the same people tell you, and there's the longest line to come in. It's like the best ride at Disneyland. So they got the longest line, but it's the toughest place to come. That'll tell you something about the quality of the human being. That the soul would want to come here to go through what we do.
And I can tell you right now, my work has flipped a little bit, and I'm working a lot with women
Really?
trying to conceive.
Really?
And I can tell you there's a lot of souls trying to come through.
Wow. That's cool.
Which, yeah. I get to play in the baby realm, is what I call it.
Really?
Yeah. So that's something that's always like happened spontaneously. But even before I got on this path, I didn't really understand it. But like, people would come to me for sessions, not being able to conceive, and they had been trying for many years, and then just through a couple of sessions, just tuning their frequency, and then they fall pregnant, and that's sort of becoming more. I don't know if that's what I'm meant to be doing. It's kind of it just happens spontaneously, but there's a lot of souls wanting to come in, which kind of makes me feel that there has to be a level up of frequency in order for that to occur, and I feel like we're on the precipice of.
Yeah. Yeah. It does, but at the same time, I feel beaten. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. But you know what I find interesting, though, about what you're saying is, going back to your other experience. You know what I mean? There's got to be a connection there. Like, were you going through all that you were going through and assigned to do, like the blog and then the gatherings? Was that some form of anchoring? Right? Like of what your lineage brings to the table, like a midwife, or whatever, whatever you call it, a fertility cosmic expert. I don't know. But, because like some people get directions, sacred wisdom, how do you do this? How do you do that? And maybe there's other ways. Like even like with the music thing, maybe that's not, you're going back to the creativity part of it. You're putting something out that's coming right back. Like like through your aspects, through your line, you're sharing something that you've carried with you. Because obviously, there's got to be a connection. There has to be.
I think a term that's come to me is that other people have told me, and I just laugh about it because I don't like to take things too seriously. But cosmic midwife.
Yeah.
In this universe. Oh,
yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, there's been periods where I've been in what I call the baby realm. I don't even know where it is, but it's a beautiful place. It's not dense like down here.
I bet it's cool. I bet it is. You know that Haruko from Mount Shasta that plays the flute? I share a lot of her videos. She's been on the show a lot. Well, she draws these giant drawings of universes. And the first one she ever drew, Morgan and I were in there in 2019. We just happened to walk in, and she recognized us. And so anyway, but the first one she did was the rabbit universe. And you would look at this thing. It was like 8 feet by, 4 feet. It was huge. And you could feel and it was the same thing for her. She went to the rabbit universe. They told her, draw it. And you could actually feel it. And she had many other ones there. But so I would imagine, to me, that's how it feels. Like when you talk about the baby universe, it feels like fluffy and soft and smells good, like, no bullshit, no fuckery.
And all of these souls have been like trying to come through over the years, and it's like they dip their toe in, and then they're like, not yet.
Why? They must be smarter than us. Shit. We were like those, people up there in Alaska, that think they're penguins and run in there with just a little Speedo on. You ever see that? There'd be like 100 of them jumping in the water. The fucking icebergs are going by and shit. That's who we were. Oh, man.
But I think that the precursor to that's always the deep dive. And I don't know about you, but I think a lot of people have been battling in dream space. It almost feels like that battling war-like energy kind of ramped up a little bit over the last few weeks, especially.
Good point. Yeah.
And I always, the way that I make sense of it is that when that higher self goes MIA, that's because there's like a partaking in different, there is bleed through occurring from different dimensional aspects that are attending to whatever,
Yeah.
And then I think that's a precursor to then when things start to occur here in this reality. It's like the energetics occur first to minimize maybe impact of things so that they're not as bad as what they could be, perhaps.
Right.
Because I think that we, I still get people message me telling me that you're in their dream space doing all sorts of wild things. And
you are?
I know sometimes you pop up.
Yeah.
No, that you are.
Oh, that I am. Yeah, I get that. I hear that about Morgan. I hear about me quite a bit. And sometimes it happens like a bunch at one time. Like 5 or 6 people in a day or two. And the other thing I'm noticing is it's happening more frequently. It's like with a few people, it's happening like every week or two, which is kind of interesting. I had something 2 nights ago, so this I think is along the same lines, where I went to bed conscious, my mind, heart, and soul kind of like, I would just say merged. I was in dimension, but I was conscious, right? So I was out. I was out of my body, but my body went with me. That's the only way I could explain it. And then I fell asleep, and I didn't lose consciousness. And for me, it was kind of like, oh, here's how it's kind of going to go. It's not going to be like night and day. It's going to be like the same blend of that, type of feeling. What were you going to say? Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, to add on to that, like I've seen for a while now, I like to observe the patterns. And so I find that if there's a couple of things that occur, but sometimes when I'm in, because I was told a few weeks ago when I was really absent here and it was like in that purging zone, that I was in the frequency of the new earth.
Okay.
And working on the, kind of connecting the timelines so that, this next phase of transition, whatever that means, I don't know.
Right. No, I can relate to that too with the whole Soulogy Fest thing, because it was shown to me. I wouldn't have described it that way because I didn't think of it, but that's the way I would describe it. I saw it at many levels. I saw things being reconnected, things being uncovered to be connected to, timelines, cycles ending, almost like it was just weaving. And a lot of people's stories matched that during that time. Yeah, August was Mother Trucker and ended in September. I have no memory of, really.
No, it was big. It was a complete flow. I spent a lot of time on the couch, just staring at the wall.
Yeah, I was just like in a daze. And the crazy thing too, and I don't know if this will happen to me again, but I think people can relate to this. And obviously I had a pretty extreme experience. I mean, So I ended up in Houston, and I'm staying with my daughter, or in her apartment. She stayed with her boyfriend, and I'm in the neighborhood my grandmother lived, one street over, and all this weird stuff going on. And again, I felt very much on point, but it took me about a month. That's when I had to leave, 30th of September. It took me about a month to realize that even though I was on point, my human was unraveling. Now figure that shit out. How do you figure that out? You know, I know I'm okay. I'm on point. I get it. You know, I'm a soul. I got this thing. I know what we're doing. But my human was just unraveling. And that's when I had to go. And I hope that doesn't happen again. I don't want to go through that again. No. Whatever it takes. Whatever.
Yeah. I I feel like, was that going back to Houston? Was that like a pivotal point in the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, that's where I came from. And so 10 years earlier, the same thing happened. I went into the system. Now, this was a more of a divine intervention. Like, they don't extradite people from 2 states away for a misdemeanor that was originally a non-arrest warrant filed 6 years ago. It was basically somebody writing something on a piece of paper. That's, you don't, even the cops were like, this doesn't happen, right? So, but 10 years earlier, it was more of my experience. You know, it was a longer period. It was a kind of like an initiation. I went into jail for 34 days, and I was in the system for 2 years in probation, and having to, but and even actually longer than that, about 5 years. But it was this whole kind of like, you created all this, because it started with, man, hey, this isn't, these weren't accurate. This wasn't an accurate thing here. And so it was that whole, injustice kind of thing. And then you get into the system, and it's unjust as hell. And but it was like at the front end. So the rear end is 10 years later. But I was able to go into it like, as soon as I knew that's what was about to that was happening, I went into this state, like all that information, all that experience just popped in, and I'm like, I got this. And it was like, it was weird.
Bookends.
Yeah, bookends. And then driving to Houston, I kept going by places that I had been, that I had worked, and I had gone to college, and all these different things. So yeah, and again, as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So,
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, with all the prognostications, let's just forget about prognostications and flashes and Nasara and all that stuff. Because what are we finding? We're finding feeling. Feeling is like it. It is the answer. It is the brain. It is the mind. It is, you know what I mean? Feeling is all of it, right? The heart. But I can't. And I don't know if I'm in resistance or attachment but I can't see things not absolutely turn or getting to a level of undisputable, what we've all been chasing, what we've all been creating by the spring, by March. I don't see. I would not be impressed. Number one, and I don't know if I would stick around, because it just feels, I don't know. To me, it feels like it's showing itself more and more already. But I mean, in a really big way, where people's heads are turning, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I would agree. Like you, I feel like I'm going through a process of wrapping up of where my journey began, and I'm going back to those places. So I went on one trip, and I'm about to take another one in 2 days. So
Oh
I'll be
yeah,
gone a couple of weeks.
yeah,
Um, and that I was in a very confused place at that time. So I feel like I'm reclaiming those aspects of the hurt, wounded beginning stages of myself. So my bookends are in that completion.
makes sense.
And it was around that time that I saw, and I had this very vivid dream of the collapse. Um, the financial system and the government structures, and that was the time of the birth for me and for many other women. But we had to get to that point until the children would come through. And I was also told that I had, when the time was come, I would be pushed to write my book because it was at the completion phase. And now I'm like, oh, holy shit, I think we're here.
I think we
But
are.
I'm also very neutral to it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I'm so happy you said that. You told that story. When was that?
The dream that I had was in the beginning of 2016.
Okay.
And there was a lot of chaos. I saw it. It started in the US, and it
Yeah.
was just chaos.
Yeah.
And then, well, I believe I dreamt about Trump because there was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man
Hmm.
who was kind of at the forefront of it, but there was Palladians behind him.
Right.
Um,
Well, there's a
and
Palladian next to him too. His wife.
yeah, right.
And his son.
But I think,
I think his son's from Andromeda. No, no, but
um,
that's see, that to me, that feels right. Like what you just said feels right, and that to me it feels like it aligns with what I just said. Like I believe we've arrived now.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just I keep saying, like, I just feel like I walked out of a cosmic car wash with all those brushes all over me and the things that blow, and you're just getting like pounded, and
Mm.
and yeah, you made it, but it's like, okay, let me get my equilibrium. But yeah, that feels right. Now, what you said about remaining neutral, um,
Mm.
I can understand that. Like, to me, I have to remain open,
Mm.
and so I don't get caught up. Like even though that feels right to me, I'm not. Oh, this is coming. This is coming. It can't be that way, because I feel like that I don't understand everything,
Mm.
and there could be massive chaos, massive chaos by
Mm.
conventional human terms, but by empowered, aware, divine humans that
Mm.
know they're divine humans that are creating the code of the divine human. We may Our role may be so drastically different than we thought for a while,
Mm. Mm.
where we're literally working with the ethers in the physical field or holding light while people freak out or whatever. I don't know, but I do believe that whether that happens or not, in the end of all ends, if you want to put it that way, everyone's fairy tale comes true,
Mm.
and I'm not backing off of that. No, I'm
Mm.
not. With the universe, I tell them every night, and I know it's I do.
It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Jackie
I think
McAllister. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that I think a lot of people are at the level of exhaustion because it's been
Mm-hmm.
so incredibly insane for so long, and now it's just like, I mean, I won't lie. I've been saying, can we just get on with the show? Like, can we just...
Yeah.
And people
Well,
around me going, Alicia, things are happening. I'm like, oh no, not yet. Like,
yeah.
sorry, what did Jack? I know
Oh,
Jackie. What did
she
Jackie?
was saying what you did a second ago. She was talking about, but the way she said it, she said she feels extreme anticipation, but not anxiousness.
Mm, mm,
Uh,
mm,
but yeah, like a weird wanting for something to come, but also peace and patience. Yeah. I mean, man, I don't know. I know I'm biased when it comes to the human, but man, we're badasses. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, I do think this is a level of exhaustion I haven't seen out there in 10 years that I've been doing this.
mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. and everyone I've spoken to, not that I talk to that many people or haven't in the last few months,
Yeah, I don't do people too well.
but I do get to interact with clients, yeah, that's just been a common theme for them, is just like this exhaustion over it, emptying out phase. But
Mm-hmm.
I often see like what is being released, but what's coming in, and it's to me it's a golden pink energy is how I see it.
Yeah. Well, definitely the pink definitely showed itself. I mean, it's been all over the place. And when I got here in July, it was everywhere. I mean, I took some incredible video and footage and pictures. But and I seen other people, and the gold too. I saw the gold. People were posting a bunch of pictures of the gold and the pinkish gold. I remember seeing that. Now that you mention it, I've seen a lot of that. I've seen some of what I consider like the masculine, like this blue, the blue, green, blue. I've had some things happen there, but I haven't seen it uh, until very lately, like in the skies. And I'll look in the skies and there'll be different blues, like several different blues, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's not normal. Yeah, yeah, because it's affecting
Yeah.
everything. The things we hear, the things we see. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
it feels good having this
And
conversation.
even people who aren't like that in tune have been having a lot more sort of intuitive and psychic experiences too. So I think that
Hmm.
is increasing in just everyday people, which that to me shows something as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. We had.
I mean,
Go ahead.
my dad. I mean, he's been doing meditation practice every morning for as long as I can remember.
Really?
Um, hmm, hmm. Yeah,
Cool.
he wakes up at 4:45. He goes for his walk. He looks at the stars, and then he comes home and he meditates. And just recently, he's been having like stream of consciousness thoughts or hearing things come through. And
Wow.
he's one of those people that gets really frustrated. He's like, why can't I, get something like you do, or whatever. But that's starting to come online for him, and that makes me excited.
Wow. Why can't I bend a spoon? but but
Yeah.
so that's interesting because obviously talk to a lot of people on this show, but to have first of all, your story's out there a bit more than most people, right? So we've all had our things with family, and now and then you hear someone will say, "Yeah, my family has supported me the whole time." I'm like, "Oh wow, that's different." But even given the comprehensiveness of your experience, right? Like your dad understands it all. Does he accepts it all?
I think so. I think he's secretly like
Yeah.
it's not really it's not really discussed anymore in my family because it created a lot of conflict. Like I think that both my parents were very accepting of my spiritual path and working as a healer and all that.
Hmm.
It's just who I've always been. But I think the pregnancy journey just pushed the buttons a little bit further, you know. Um, but when I first told my dad, because I told my mum first, and she was okay with it, and then like what I notice is like when I tell people they're in my energy, they're okay with it. They step out of my field, and their cognitive dissonance um, kicks in,
Mm-hmm.
and the conflict. And I've seen that happen repeatedly, but um,
You're a fire
and
starter.
yeah.
Fire starter.
But I remember
Um,
when I first told my dad, and my dad's response was, "What race is it? It's not the Greys, is it?" And I went, "No, Dad, it's not the Greys."
wow.
And he went, oh, "Okay, yeah."
So he is plugged in. That's
Well,
that's
yeah.
that's
I
pretty.
mean, he was teaching me about ETs when I was a kid, so
Really. Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, they had.
I grew up.
No wonder.
A lot of.
Go figure that. He probably has all the answers, just didn't want to tell you. He probably knows your whole
And
galactic lineage.
well, funnily enough, about 2 weeks after my conception process occurred, and I want to find, maybe you can help me, Todd. I'm trying to find a different word to describe my experience, because pregnancy has certain connotations around it.
Yeah, true.
And you know,
God,
so
I don't
anyway,
know.
I'm still playing around with that.
I don't know. Your conception? I don't know. That's a tough one. Go ahead.
But about 2 weeks after I went through that, even before I had told my dad, he had a profound experience in meditation where a council of beings surrounded him and put like a cloak. They were wearing these robes that had gold trimming on them. And he was standing in the middle of them, and they put a cloak on him, and then all of a sudden his vision was shown outward, and there was just like thousands of them, but he was in the inner quadrant.
Wow.
And I was like, Dad, that's like really profound. And my dad's,
What is
he's
it?
like, He's like, I'll go outside and dig a hole. Like,
John Wayne, let me go be Macho Man. Yeah. You know, he's thinking about it every moment, every shovel he sticks in the ground, every scoop he's thinking about it. Wow, that is profound. That says a lot about your lineage. It says a lot about you. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
And then the connection with how, like, where your practice has taken you versus the story itself. You know, the connection there. That's meaningful. That seems like, to me, that spells manifestation, basically. Like you were doing that. You know, I don't know. You were participating, facilitating, learning, anchoring, and then now you're physically, basically taking the role they took with you. You're taking with these women, and those from the baby universe that you know that have been wanting to come in. They dip their toe in. You're actually bringing them in. This is a powerful thing. Powerful.
Yeah, it's a joyful part of my work. I remember when I started, and I was like, "What do you want me to do with all this? Like, why?" Because I had researched all these different types of like parthenogenesis, light conception, interdimensional conception, hybrid children, you know, and I had like gone down all these paths, and I was like, but why does my story have all of the components to them? Like, I've never met, still to this day, I've never met anyone who's had the whole plethora of it, you know.
You're on point.
And I went to bed, you know when you get really mad and really pissed and you're like, give me something.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I just woke up with a very clear message, and it was like, you had to experience everything so you could guide other women.
Well, that makes sense. Makes sense.
And
Makes
they said,
total
now
sense.
start writing. And I was like, But you know what? Like, nothing in my life was moving forward until I started that blog. Once I started that blog, which will be coming up to, I think I started in October, November 2016.
Man, that, you know, there's a.
And you know, back then no one wanted to hear what I was talking about.
Well, the thing is, I mean, think about that statement. If each one of us did, but I mean, like in her case, because like she has a marker point. That's a lot of mileage between then and now. Like it's 6-7 years on paper, but man, that's a lot of mileage. You're talking what, 2,000 plus days. Man, these are centuries. They're and just think about that too. Think about Alisha in 2016 being faced with having to do the blog. and like, you know, and then having to become known versus anonymous. I mean, and everyone's got these steps. Like, I mean, I look back at the Todd at 2014 and go, well, shit. the only thing he was doing right was this. Everything else was, well, you know what I mean? It was just like, what possessed us? That's a lot of fortitude, a lot of guts too. All of us, every one of us. Man, this has been great. I thought I was going to die. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I hope you're feeling better, Todd.
Yeah, I feel better. I do feel a little bit better. I feel a little lighter, but I still have that, like they turn the wheels and everything changes. Like a what is it? A kaleidoscope. You turn a little turn and you're going, okay, what's this, right? But it's in my body. It's a physical. I knew this morning when I woke up I wasn't done. So I'm sure it doesn't feel though as it feels like it's leaving, like it's like maybe I'll be feeling like you another day or two if I'm lucky.
I've still got the stomach stuff going on in the background. So it's on its way out for sure.
Well, you have a good time this weekend. You're going this weekend, right? Or 2
I
days?
leave on Saturday and I'm going up north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going up?
Me and the dogs in the car.
Oh yeah. How far north? Like hours and hours, or? Are you going way north where the crocodiles are?
Oh no, not that far north. No. I'm going about 18 hours north.
That's still a long ways.
Yeah, I'm going to be camping. I'm going to catch up with Dale, and we're going to go camping. Is
he the one that you do the shows with?
Yeah.
Y'all have a good energy together. Yeah, I like that. Well, you take care. I love you. Thank you for holding space and talking to me. And thank you everybody for joining. We'll be back tomorrow. We got at least 2 shows. I'm going home. I'm going to bed.
Good night. Bye, Todd.
Bye-bye.